You're watching PJTV. I'm Steve Green. This is Tea Party Coast to Coast. Each week we talk to a different Tea Party organizer or candidate, even better yet, so you can know what's going on in your area and from coast to coast. Last week we took our second trip down to Texas, all the way down to the Rio Grande to talk to Francisco Canseco. This week we aim due east from there for Vidalia in Georgia's 12th district, where Ray McKinney just finished first in a tough primary fight for the privilege of unseating incumbent Democrat John Barrow. But the battle for the nomination isn't over quite yet. Mr. McKinney, thanks for joining us today.
Well, it's good to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to speak out.
We appreciate your time. And congrats on your win last night, but there's a little more to come, isn't there?
Well, we're pretty excited about it. Everybody thought there was going to be a runoff, and sure enough, there was a runoff. In our race, we have to win by greater than 50% margin. We came in at 43 or 44%. Our next closest competitor was at 15%. He had been running for 15 months. We've been running a campaign for about 14 months. And thanks to a great group of volunteers and very enthusiastic people, we came from out of nowhere and we took first place.
Yeah, almost 3-1 there. That's some enthusiasm, all right. Okay, so there's one more hurdle to clear before the general election. Can you tell our Tea Party followers, our Tea Party viewers, why you should be the GOP standard bearer going into November?
Well, every candidate's got their own reasons for running. I had ran in 2008, and then I was invited to be the keynote speaker at a Tea Party rally April 13th in Effingham County I guess April 13th, but it was Tea parties were first getting started and they hadn't got nationwide attention yet, and I was, pretty excited to be going to this group of people. But what I expected was about 20 or 25 people to show up, and we had about 125 people show up. This is a very rural town, rural county. What I saw was an enthusiasm that I hadn't seen before in American politics. And what I've seen since then is that the Tea Party, what a lot of people thought was going to be a fad or a one-time deal, has turned into a serious movement, a serious group of people who are actually doing what Tea Parties were designed to do, which is influence the way the election process is going, and let's get some good officials in Washington with good conservative values, and we can change the course of this nation.
Yeah, in 30 years of watching politics, I've never seen anything like this Tea Party movement. I don't know what to compare it to. I really don't. And I noticed, I was reading your bio, 2008 was the first time you tried running for office. What made you decide back then you had to get involved in all this craziness?
Well, I got totally fed up. I just didn't know what to do. I was frustrated. We had wasteful government spending. We had politicians who were basically destroying our country. There was no Tea Party. There were not organized groups out there that were trying to make a difference. And I got involved. And I realized, some of the founding fathers had some great quotes. And one that Thomas Jefferson said is that America is not ruled by the majority. It's ruled by the majority that participates. And what I realized is I was one of the people who was not participating in the process. And the reason why we have the problems we have in Washington right now is we don't participate. We don't get involved. We're the electorate. That's part of our job. This country is, some people call it an experiment, but it doesn't work unless we, the people, do what we're supposed to do and hold our officials accountable. And so I decided that I would get involved, and I'd offer my services for office, and I take my private world experience and try to go to Washington and make a difference.
You know what? I thought I knew my Jefferson, but that quote's new to me. I'm gonna keep that one if you don't mind. I was looking over the numbers. Your district went pretty heavily for Barrow last time around. Is this year different? What makes 2010 winnable? Has something changed in the last couple of years?
Well, it's interesting for John Barrow. John Barrow has run in the past as a very conservative candidate. In 2008, he ran as a very liberal candidate. He was endorsed by Barack Obama. He, in turn, had endorsed Barack Obama. And John Barrow has, for the last 3 election cycles, rode what's popular. He's doing what he thinks. He holds his finger up, and he sees what people are doing, with the way they're looking, and that's the way he runs. And I think people now, for number one, is they're seeing that John Barrow changes his stances every 2 years. 40% of our district is independent. 40% of our district is what makes a difference of whether or not you have a Republican or Democrat. And right now, they're sick and tired of what's going on with John Barrow. A lot of these people are members of the Tea Party. So I think we have the best shot ever at defeating John Barrow. It's an off-peak election year. We're in our midterms. He's part of a very unpopular Congress. He is a staunch supporter of Nancy Pelosi, 40% independent. He was just primaried by an opponent who is going to have some supporters who are not happy with him. In 2004, 2006, John Barrow won by less than 1% of the vote. 2008 was a very unique year. Of course, you had the Obama factor. You had a lot of people, a lot of excitement, a lot of promises, a lot of hope for change. And people now have seen that it's a wasted dream. So I think that's all going to come back to haunt John Barrow. And John Barrow's going to get defeated. And come January, we're going to be having a new Speaker of the House.
A zag. He's going to have to zig again, it sounds like. Guessing on what you were just saying, the Obama agenda maybe isn't playing very well in Georgia District 12?
I don't think the Obama agenda is playing anywhere in the United States of America right now. And that's just one more thing that he has. It's something he's got hanging around his neck. You know, Barrow was a staunch Bush supporter at one time. Now he's a staunch Obama supporter. And they say if you play in the middle of the road long enough, you're going to get run over.
Boy, that's the truth. I saw it at Americans for Tax Reform, Grover Norquist's site, that you signed the Taxpayer Protection Pledge. Now, all our viewers might not be familiar with that. What's it about?
Well, you know, the one thing we're trying to do is we're trying to reform what's going on in Washington, and part of that is the IRS and the current tax code. It's a pledge that I signed in 2008. I signed again here in 2010. When I asked about why should I re-sign it, because once I've signed it, I'm committed to it. You don't have to ask me every 2 years to tell you where I stand. I will be consistent. What we're trying to do is to solve, 60, 70,000 pages of tax code, loopholes that nobody knows what they are. It's basically an extremely cumbersome system. It's a very inefficient system. And take, for example, the health care bill that was just passed. The 1099 section of the health care bill is going to be a total disaster for small business. I'm just starting to hear it being talked about on the radio, but small businesses have been talking about it. We've been talking about it for the last month. This is something that you're going to have to submit a 1099 for the gas that you buy, for your phone bills, your internet service. It's going to create billions of pieces of paperwork. And that's a big problem. When people talk about bureaucracy, the IRS and our tax code is the epitome of bureaucracy.
Oh, the collection costs just keep the IRS running were astronomical even before this thing began. This is a totally 2010 question, but I have to ask. I was going through your Facebook fans, and it's practically a who's who of bloggers I respect and have been reading for years. And here we are together on PJTV. It's all new media. What can people watching this or following you on Facebook or Twitter, what can they do to help?
As far as what can people do to help is just spread the word. Georgia 12 and most districts in this country will not be won within the district. You look at the Scott Brown campaign, it wasn't won in Massachusetts. It was won because people like Stacey McKinney started writing about what was going on in Massachusetts, and America picked it up. America saw the chance to take away the seat from the Democrats. America saw an opportunity, and America helped America contribute. And what districts like mine around this country are going to need is we're going to need America to help. We're here to work, we're here to do our due diligence, but at the same time, we need people who are in safe, conservative districts to help us out. For example, we've got the 1st District, which is right next door to us outside of Savannah, that's Jack Kingston. We have the 9th District. We have a lot of good conservative Republican congressmen, Phil Gingrey, Tom Price. These districts are very safe districts, and what we're asking people to do there is to help us out, adopt a congressman. From a nationwide standpoint, we need the same thing. We need people around the country who can go out and they can adopt a congressman, even if it's send us $10 or $20, even if it's make a few phone calls on our behalf, whatever they can do to help us spread the word, show that this is winnable, get the people excited about this. And what we're going to have to do is defeat 40, 41, 45, 50, whatever we can do. Democrats come November. We've got to take back the House. We have to stop what's going on in Washington, because if we don't stop it in 2010, if we don't draw the line now, I don't know if we'll be able to recover in 2012.
That's right. That's a real call to arms, folks, and that's why we call it Tea Party Coast to Coast. One last thing, Mr. McKinney, you work in the nuclear industry, is that correct? What's the talk around the office when you look at what's been going on down in the Gulf these last 3 months?
Well, it's sad what's going on in the Gulf. Nobody wants to see a spill like this, but there's so many different dynamics. I work from an engineering standpoint. One, why are you having the drill in a mile deep of water? It's because of the EPA and the federal government. That's one factor. The other thing we found out the other day, that there's over 2,200 of these capped wells in the Gulf. And the question was, why do we have 2,200 capped wells? And the reason is we have no refining facilities here in the United States to refine the oil. So what people didn't realize is we have this entire supply, this very large supply of oil right here in the Gulf that could be supplying gas here locally to the United States, and we don't do it because we don't build the refineries. We see it as a travesty. It's failure of the federal government, it's failure of the EPA, it's failure of all different kind of administrations. And we could be solving a lot of our problems, energy problems, job problems. But right now we got government bureaucracy and this moratorium, which is going to cost more jobs. And once again, government has stepped in and done the wrong thing.
Yeah, but we've got the IRS to collect all those taxes for us. Okay, Mr. McKinney, thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to hold you to that taxpayer protection pledge, and good luck in the runoff and again in November.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Thanks. We really liked having you on. Once again, folks, that's Ray McKinney, very nearly the Republican congressional candidate in Georgia's Democratic 12th District. This one looks winnable to me, so go check out raymckinney.org. And that is it for this week's Coast to Coast Tea Party. Come on back next week. We're working on getting Jim Rutledge on the show. He's gunning for the GOP Senate nomination in Maryland. Can't wait to meet that guy. For PJTV, I'm Steve Green.